For nearly the last 40 years, the Toyota Camry has been consistently America's favorite sedan, and although the Camry is no longer Toyota's best-selling vehicle in the States, with over 313,000 units sold last year, this still represents a pretty healthy chunk of their sales pie. So as you can see, this week, Toyota has loaned me this 2023 Toyota Camry XLE Hybrid, the hybrid trim being the most fuel-efficient model. And even though there are a lot of newer entries in the segment, Toyota has kept the Camry relatively fresh, with the last major refresh happening in 2021. So the big question I would answer, if you guys are still in the market for a mid-size hybridized family sedan, does the Camry still represent one of the best in the segment? Stay tuned to find out. So because the styling of the 2023 Camry has stayed pretty much the same, I want to first show you guys what's underneath the hood. Now, the Camry is one of the few mid-size sedans out there where you can get this vehicle with a 6-cylinder. However, this is probably the option that most people are going to be happy with. Now, underneath the Camry's hood, you're going to find the second generation of Toyota's hybrid system. This is combining a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter 4-cylinder that runs on the Atkinson cycle that has direct injection with 2 electric motors and an eCVT, so it's got a continuously variable transmission. The gas engine on its own makes around 176 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque, while the 2 electric motors will add another 118 horsepower. When you combine the two, you get 208 because there are parasitic losses. You can see the engine is coming on now. It's on right now, but when it's sitting there, it will basically shut the engine off when you're idling, so you can leave the heat on, and it turns on to recharge the battery, which, by the way, that battery is a 1.6 kilowatt hour lithium ion unit, very, very small, so this doesn't offer any electric only range. Fuel economy is rated at 44 in the city, 47 on the highway, which is pretty decent. It's got a 13-gallon gas tank. Toyota basically says 0 to 60 should be in the mid 7-second range. We'll test it out now that we've got our equipment, and it has a top speed of around 119 miles an hour. The hybrid Camry is a little bit heavier than the 4-cylinder only version. This vehicle here, as it sits, weighs in at just under 3,600 pounds. But now the engine has shut back off, so you guys can hear me talk again. Sorry about that. But let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling of the 2023 model. This is the XLE grade, which means it's the more luxury-oriented version with extra chrome. Toyota gave it a heavy refresh back in 2021. You can see compared to the XSE or the SE, you have a slightly different front fascia. It's less aggressive. You can see it's got the blue accented Toyota logo. It's got a smaller grille, although at the lower portion, it's got a huge kind of gray finish grille with some new chrome accents going along the sides of the grille. You can see the headlights. The XLE comes with full LEDs, which also include an LED daytime running light and turn signal. If you step down to the lower grades, you'll have an incandescent turn signal, and then you also get the full 360 camera, so you get a front camera there that's part of an advanced technology package that my tester has. So overall, the Camry's design, I think, is a little bit it's a little plain in the XLE grade, but I also think that it still pretty much stands out, especially when you guys get it in brighter colors. This is supersonic red with the macadamia interior, which is definitely nice. Now, the Camry is built off of the TNGA architecture, which means its wheelbase is around 111 inches long. It's around 192 inches long overall. This is about 4 inches shorter than the new Toyota Crown and the old Toyota Avalon. You can see the XLE comes with a smaller set of 18-inch wheels wrapped in a 235/45 R18 tire. It's kind of got like a two-tone machine look with the gray painted pockets. The XSE, which was new for 2021, has a 19-inch black finished wheel. But looking at the rest of the profile, you can see very nondescript. There's nothing super exciting about this Camry unless you go for the sportier trims. You can see just a standard sunroof along with the chrome along the window trim. You have integrated turn signal mirrors along with heated mirrors. The 6 cylinders are the only Camrys that offer the panoramic sunroof. You cannot get that on the 4 or the hybrid. But you can see, looking at the rear, the XLE definitely looks a little more like an LE. It's very plain back here. Although, unlike an LE, you have full LED taillights, which include LED turn signals. It's got Camry boldly spelled out, and then XLE hybrid. There's just a single chrome exhaust tip. If you go for an XSE, you'll have a single chrome exhaust tip with dual outlets. But overall, again, it doesn't really have any changes to talk about. It's still a relatively good looking car, but I would personally go with the sportier options. Now, looking at opening up the trunk, you can see the release is over to the right side of the rear deck, and you can see the trunk space is unchanged versus the pre-refresh model. You get around 15.1 cubic feet of storage space. You can see the seats still fold down in a 60/40 manner. The battery actually lives underneath the rear seat, so unlike the prior generation, which got the trunk capacity cut when you had a hybrid, that's not the case anymore. If you look underneath here, you can see it looks like a temporary spare, which is underneath that foam, so you don't have to deal with a fix-a-flat kit. So the exterior of the Camry is pretty much unchanged this year, but let's go ahead and quickly talk about the interior. You can see here's the key fob for the vehicle. Toyota's been using this key for a while. You can see it has a blue hybrid logo, or a blue Toyota logo on it to show that you have the hybrid. Usual buttons to lock, unlock, and remote open the trunk and use the panic feature. No remote start from the fob, but if you have access to the Toyota app, you can also remote start it from your smartphone. But as I open the door here, you can see my particular tester with the Supersonic Red has this really nice macadamia Softex interior. So this is their faux leather. You can see the seats have a unique perforation where the holes are kind of set in a herringbone pattern. These are also heated and ventilated. You have a 10-way power driver's seat and an 8-way power passenger seat. However, Camrys do not offer memory seats. Even on this fully loaded XLE grade, you cannot get memory seats on a Camry, which is a little bit frustrating. I do love the two-tone look with the macadamia, with the kind of darker gray graphite upper trim. You can see it's got a silver accented door handle here. This is a soft touch injection molded plastic. And then you can see the window controls feel pretty nice and high quality. They are one-touch automatic for all four, which is pretty nice. Now getting inside, the Camry has about 5.3 inches of ground clearance, so it's got a low step-in height. As I get in and shut the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk. It sounds like every other vehicle Toyota makes on this platform. And then when I want to start it up, you can see the button to fire everything up is right here. It's just a power button. You can see because it's a hybrid, everything just kind of whirs to life. There is no traditional engine starter noise. And Toyota updated this interior back in 2021, where they gave it that floating 9-inch touchscreen there, which is optional on the higher trims. The lower trims will have a smaller 7-inch display. And then you also have kind of like a 7-inch helper screen in the center, along with your traditional analog gauges there. Everything about this interior is pretty much no frills. Materials quality here on the upper part of the dash is soft touch, which is nice. You can see there's a soft touch material there. There's some faux wood looking trim along this portion here. And then this is padded here, where you have some faux stitching, and then you have this interesting kind of design, a zigzag design of silver painted plastic going along the center console. They did, again, have to move the vents. You can see this is where they used to be. They had to move it down here. There's like this interesting plastic area there. You get dual zone climate control with this model, and then you also have a wireless phone charging pad, and then there's a little bit of storage underneath there, which is pretty cool. Although, keep in mind, you have to connect the CarPlay via USB-A connector. There is no wireless CarPlay because this has the older Toyota system. You can see GPS. This has factory GPS. Nothing super special. Toyota even has a newer system in their Toyota Audio Multimedia interface, where it's a cloud-based connected services system. This is, again, their older system, but if you have your phone plugged in, it does have Apple CarPlay, which, sadly, I don't have my phone plugged in right now, but let me go ahead and do that so you guys can see what the CarPlay looks like. So if I plug in my phone, it should automatically connect, which, there we go. There's what the CarPlay looks like, and you can see it's perfectly fine. It's easy to use. I just wish it was wireless, so kind of keep that in mind. If you want a Camry, you're gonna have to deal with their older infotainment system as opposed to the newer system. Now down here you can see this controls the CVT. When you put the vehicle into reverse, it does give you, again, a backup camera, which is nice, and you also have a full 360 camera, which you can access right here. And it also gives you a full perimeter scan if you guys push the view button, which is over here on the driver's side. But you can see there, it's kind of useless, this view, and the graphics are really old. So Toyota has a newer, higher quality camera resolution on other products, but the Camry sadly doesn't have that. Your drive mode selector, Eco, Normal, and Sport. There's also an EV mode, which is very limited in terms of EV only range. And then you have an electronic parking brake. I like how this is not a piano black plastic trim, which is definitely nice. It's not going to show fingerprints and whatnot. You have a nice padded center console area with another USB-A and USB-C charging port over here. And then the seats, like I said earlier, they have a unique pattern to them, being the XLE grade. However, I will say that for an XLE, the seats are hard. The padding is just super stiff, and they aren't very comfortable for me, so kind of keep that in mind. Above me, you can see there's like a sunroof, standard sunroof that opens up, a woven material here. You have LED map lighting. And then the auto-dimming rearview mirror here is kind of chunky, and Toyota doesn't offer their digital camera rearview mirror, so that's something that you should keep in mind. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat really quick and show you guys what the space is like. Now you can see back here, Toyota says there's around 38 inches of legroom. Material quality is the same as the front, so you can see it's still soft touch injection molded plastic. And then you can see here the seats have an adjustable head restraint. On lower grades, I believe those are actually fixed into place, but as I get in and shut the door, you can see it's a pretty nice place to spend time. There is a hump here that intrudes on the middle passenger. At least the XLE gives you rear seat air vents, which I believe the XSE gives that to you as well. No heated rear seats and no USB charging ports. You got 2 storage pockets, as you can see, and then you also have an armrest that folds down and gives you cup holders. So again, the back seat is perfectly acceptable and it has a good amount of legroom, but I kind of wish that Toyota had included rear seat USB charging and heated rear seats, especially on this top grade. So it's been about 2 years since I had a chance to get behind the wheel of the current generation Camry hybrid. I've spent plenty of time in the 8th generation model. It's been out since 2018, but this, as you guys know, the sedan segment continues to shrink. This car's main rival, the Honda Accord, was just unveiled. I'll be driving that vehicle soon, but at 208 horsepower, this still technically has more power than the Accord hybrid, and the hybrid Camry kind of falls in the middle of the spectrum. Now, I've never actually had a chance to 0 to 60 test this model, so let's go ahead and see what we can get. We'll put everything into sport mode here. We will disengage the traction control, and we'll brake torque it and see what we can get. Wow, that's actually pretty decent acceleration. 0 to 60 in 7.19 seconds, so 7.2 seconds is a smidge quicker than what I expected it to be. I mean, for most people, I mean, let's be honest here, for people who buy this type of car, you're not gonna be 0 to 60 testing this car. I just do it for demonstration purposes, but it kind of gives us a baseline on what to expect. I mean, the V6 Camry can do it in around 6 seconds. Some show it under 6 seconds. While the base 4-cylinder engine Camry, that will probably take more closer to 9 seconds. So kind of keep that in mind when you guys are, considering a vehicle like this. It's not for all-out acceleration, but the hybrid, for about $2,000 more, does give you significantly better gas mileage and probably about a second improvement in the 0 to 60 performance, which is nice. Overall, though, the Camry hasn't really changed too much in terms of the driving dynamics, but let's go ahead and try it one more time here. I'm not going to brake torque it this time. I'm just going to floor it. And because it's an electric motor helping it, it pretty much gets off the line pretty well. 7.8 seconds there, and this is with it going more slightly uphill. So again, about what I expected. It would be cool if Toyota would offer all-wheel drive, or they'd offer a plug-in hybrid Camry, but we know nothing of that just yet. This current generation is going to be redesigned soon. We don't know when, but it should be getting a full redesign soon. And again, if you guys are looking at this current model, it's still pretty much close to the top of its game, but there are some negatives that I've noticed about this car over the years, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But overall, let's put the drive mode selector back into normal here, switch the transmission back over into just drive. There is a sport mode in the transmission, but in this mode, this is where most people are going to drive the Camry, and this is where it's a really nice, comfortable daily driver. I mean, the driving dynamics of it are just very simple. You have a very non-surprised feeling when I drive this car. The torque that I get from the hybrid system is nice. The engine is buzzy. It transmits some vibration back through the pedal, through the steering wheel, and the eCVT goes about its business without any fuss, and it's nice. There are no paddles on this model. I believe Toyota reserves that for the XSE grade, and this model here diverts to the softer suspension tuning of the LE. It doesn't have adaptive dampers, but the Camry rides and handles just fine, although it's not quite as soft as I expected a Camry to be. But it's definitely softer versus if you guys are comparing it to the XSE or the SE trim. Being front wheel drive, this thing will smoke the front tires if you put your foot down hard enough in corners. But you can see here, just really nice acceleration. No fuss, no frills, just a little bit of noise from the engine. But again, it's totally acceptable. Now, the steering in this car is surprisingly quick. It transmits 0 feedback, but the suspension, you can feel how soft it is because the car just kind of wallows about. The one thing I don't like about this current generation Camry are the seats. I mean, this is the XLE grade. It's got slightly nicer seats. They are heated and ventilated, but the padding in the seats are just incredibly hard. So I'll be curious to know, for those of you who've owned this car for a while, if the seats get a little bit softer as the vehicle ages. But every Camry of this generation that I've sat in has really hard seats that just aren't very supportive, or they just aren't very comfortable. It feels like I'm sitting on a park bench Here, there's more like just 3/4, or that's probably half throttle acceleration, and it gets up to speed just fine. Visibility is also good. I can see out of the front, the sides, the rear very well, although this pillar, the A pillar, could be a little bit thinner. The Camry does not offer the digital camera review mirror that you get in other Toyotas, like the RAV4 hybrid, for example. Oh God, that's probably where I was going a little too quickly there. It just didn't really inspire much confidence. This car also has Toyota Safety Sense 2.5, so it's their older system, but it works just fine. Again, you get a sense that the Camry is due for a redesign. It got its last refresh for 2021, but overall, you know, in terms of quietness, when you aren't pushing the vehicle, the engine again shuts off and it just drives like an EV. At this range, although it doesn't really have that powerful of a battery, a big of a battery, so anytime you go near the throttle, it turns the engine back on. There is an EV mode here, but again, most of the times it'll just say EV mode unavailable, or if you push the accelerator just a little bit more, you can just literally just very lightly tap it, it turns the gas engine on, because this hybrid system isn't designed to drive it on electric power alone when you get up past, you know, parking lot speeds. Like around parking lots or in bumper to bumper traffic, it can drive on pure electricity alone, but anytime you need to get up to speed, and I'm talking like 25 miles an hour, it cannot drive this vehicle on EV power alone. But overall, the Camry is still a nice car for me. It's still really practical, although there's a reason why everyone keeps going to SUVs. And in terms of fuel economy, this car is rated at 44 in the city, 47 on the highway. In my week's worth of testing, I never got close to that. It is pretty cold outside, however. It's around 36 degrees now. And I got around 38 to 39 mpg in mixed driving. That's still very good. It was showing around 480 miles on a full tank, which again, it has about a 13-gallon gas tank. I imagine those of you who are more conservative in your driving and are more in stop-and-go traffic, you should be able to get better MPG versus that. You could probably theoretically get around 550 miles, which again makes the Camry hybrid super appealing unless you need all-wheel drive. I wish Toyota offered all-wheel drive on the hybrid. They don't. You have to go for a front-wheel drive, gas-only 2.5-liter 4-cylinder Camry to get all-wheel drive. They don't even offer on the 6-cylinder. But again, nice car, decent value, and still a relatively good-looking car depending on the trim spec. But overall, I will be curious to see what Toyota plans to do with the Camry for the next generation. So if you guys are one of the few people that still want to buy a family sedan, the Camry is still one of the best options that you can find. It's also quickly becoming one of the only options because Ford has pulled out from the midsize sedan segment, GM has pulled out, FCA has pulled out, or Stellantis has pulled out, and there's rumors that Hyundai and Kia will also discontinue the Sonata and the K5, which would leave, again, just the Camry, the Accord, and the Mazda 6, and the Nissan Altima. And the Camry, again, remains one of the few hybridized options. The Accord hybrid is really this vehicle's main competitor, and after spending the week driving, again, reminding myself what the hybrid Camry is like, this is a fairly nice car to use as your daily driver. I mean, aside from the uncomfortable seats that I've noticed, which try the seats out for yourself, this car offers plenty of interior space. It offers about a decent amount of tech that I would expect given the price point. I do wish the Toyota would offer the panoramic sunroof on the non-hybrid or on the non-V6 versions. You have to again go for the 6-cylinder to get it. And if you're looking for a sportier option, I'd also highly recommend going with the XSE grade, although the XLE has that softer ride quality and smaller smaller tires, so you don't have to deal with the expensive costs and dealing with them getting damaged if you drive in an area that has a lot of potholes. Overall, I still think this is a good looking sedan and a decent sedan, especially for the price. But again, I am super curious to see what Toyota plans to do with the Camry when they eventually introduce the next generation. Now, speaking of which, if you want to purchase this vehicle, Camrys start at just over $25,000, technically just under $25,900. The hybrid's about $2,100 extra if you guys want the electrified option. I highly recommend it considering you get much better gas mileage versus the gas-only version, but again, you cannot get all-wheel drive with the hybrid. My tester here in the XLE hybrid is almost the most expensive. Technically, the XSE is a little bit more, but this starts at around $32,900 with the options that my tester has, like the advanced technology package, the cold weather package, the upgraded JBL sound system. This one here comes to a grand total of $37,110. So getting up there in terms of price, but the XSE hybrid with everything is around $38,000. A V6 version can be almost $40,000, so kind of keep that in mind. I love the fact that Toyota still offers a 6-cylinder, but again, it's probably going to go away whenever we go to the next generation. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2023 Toyota Camry. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.